Hi, I'm Patricia Allingham Carlson, and this is my video of how I painted my watercolor seashore view. Every summer, I've been very fortunate to be able to have a camping vacation at the Delaware Seashore. The park where we camp has quite a few miles of unbuilt up beachfront, and you can walk along the bay, you can walk along the inlet between the bay and the ocean, and you could spend the day right at the beach within an easy walk. One of the things we enjoy the very most is the sunset, and we could see that right from our trailer. I hope you'll enjoy the video and give it a thumbs up. Now let's paint. Looking at a photograph that I took from our camping spot, I began this painting by applying some masking fluid. I used masking fluid anywhere that the colors were very, very white or very, very pale. And that was the sun itself, the thin strip of bay that I could see sparkling on the horizon, as well as some water in the marshes that are very close by, where people go crabbing, clamming, and have such a nice time. There's a distant marina, so I also painted some houses in with masking fluid. And when it was dry, I started by wetting down the sky with a nice even wash. This is a mixture of cobalt blue and ultramarine blue. And then I come in with some purples and some permanent pinks. Permanent rose. I'm also using yellow ochre and cadmium yellow. This is cadmium orange. One of the tricks to painting a sunset with some degree of success is not letting the colors all run together and cancel each other out, because obviously blue and yellow make green and orange and blue make gray. So the trick is to try to apply the colors cleanly, let them blend a little at the edges, but not let them run all together. The color I'm using right now is called vermilion. It's a very nice mixture of red and orange. Last, I'm coming in with some mauve. And some mauve mixed with some indigo for the dark clouds floating in the sky. Now, if watercolor would stay as bright when it dried as it is when you put it down, watercolor would be a little easier, but it doesn't. So reinforcement with some additional color is necessary. Next, I wet down the grassy marshes that are along the front of the painting. And I'm letting them dry a little bit. Meanwhile, coming back and touching up some of the colors in the sky to make them a little bit more brilliant and more concentrated. As I'm adding these colors, I'm trying not to disturb the watercolor formations that already got established in the sky. Now I'm using a mixture of Hooker's Green Dark, Indigo, and Sap Green to apply strips of color along for the marsh grasses. I get a basic blend down, and then I go back and put my darks in where they should be dark. And I will do that several more times. I'm not applying much detail except in the front of the painting, where I'm making some vertical strokes to show the grassy marshes. Then there are ribbons of color to show the different areas of the grass coming up. More indigo going in to enhance the darks. And all along the horizon. This whole thing did not really take a very long time to lay out because I'm working small here. I was pressed for time, and so I wanted to do some small works. When it's dry, I remove all the masking, and then I clean up the edges and where the masking seems to have failed a bit on the orb of the sun. I'm using a damp brush to remove color and then blotting. And now the detailing goes in. Cleaning up the edges where the masking was not exactly applied correctly, or where it failed. Putting a light bit of color into the water. First a reflection of the grasses on it, and then I'll be adding a little bit of blue, but trying to keep it very pale, because that's actually how it looked in the photograph and to my eyes on site. I'm adding a tiny strip of quin magenta along the horizon edge. And right in the center, I'm making the color much more intense just under the sun, because that's exactly how it looked. There's a distant horizon of trees, as well as some trees along the shoreline. So that's what I work on next. These are not highly detailed because they are far off in the distance. And my next bit of detailing is to show some details of the buildings in the distance, such as the roof, a few windows, and this basic structure. They are small and they are far away, so this is not a heavily detailed area, just to get the feeling that there are buildings back there. Moving to the front, I'm going over the areas of massed grass because they don't remain white, but they did remain paler, showing up against the distant or against the close shoreline and up in front of the white water. They can't be applied all up and down. They have to go diagonal as well and random, or they would not look very natural. So it's a matter of blending in and yet keeping them separate so that they will stand out against the other colored grasses. I start out with sap green, and then I'll be coming into the bottom in the darker areas with hooker's green mixed with indigo. The next thing I'm doing is trying out my colors and the point of my brush to make some very thin, distant telephone poles. With perspective, they are further away from each other as they grow closer, and closer together as they grow distant, as well as being shorter. I don't want to make them too dark because that would look not very well in this very natural colored painting. But adding them gives a little structure. This is the pre-cut mat that I have available, and I just tried it on to see how it would look. And then it's done. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I painted my seashore view. I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. And there's a link below where you can subscribe. If you ring the bell, you'll get a notice every time I post a new video. There's links below also to look at my art page on Facebook, my blog about life and art, some products I use to create my art, as well as my own art products page where you can make purchases of prints and other objects that have my artwork on them. Your comments are always welcome, and I thank you for watching, and I will see you next video.